So therefore, as a broadcaster, you have to be on all platforms. For us, the opportunity we're providing to broadcaster is that let us provide you with platforms that you can put your content on, so that you can either, if this content is encrypted, so that means for your pay service, or if it is free to air, that means you've got the ability to provide services, and then advertising revenue comes through you selling advertising capacity on this free to air service.
Welcome to ITWeb TV. Today we are joined by Mr. Mlamli Booi. He is the CEO of State Signal Distributor Sentech. Mlamli joins us today to just talk about Sentech's business, how the entity is positioning itself in an ever-changing technology environment, and some of the challenges within that in that regard. So welcome, Mlamli. It's nice to have you here.
Thank you very much, Simnikiwe. Thank you for inviting me to your studios.
Okay, thank you, sir.
Appreciate it.
Just to get a sense from people, can you just tell us, what does Sentech do?
Yes, you may have noticed as you drive along the highways or as you drive around town that you'll see two big towers in the city of Johannesburg. The tallest tower is the Sentech Tower. The other one belongs to other people, but ours is the tall tower in Auckland Park. What does it do, and what do we do as Sentech? We do a number of things. The first one is content distribution, which previously it was called signal distribution. We call it content distribution because of the changes in technologies. So that's the first part of what we do, what service we provide, and who are our customers in that service offering. It is all the broadcasters in the country, all the radio broadcasters and television broadcasters, all of them. We have one service or the other that we offer for them free to air, and we offer services also on the terrestrial side to the paid television broadcasters as well. The other service that we provide is the service that we call managed infrastructure services, which is basically the sharing of infrastructure, which is we provide capacity for all those wireless providers who want to have a place or locations to position their antennas for their radio networks. And our towers are really well positioned for high size and providing services, or providing good line of sight between two points of connection. And we have in the region of around 300 towers nationally. So that is our managed infrastructure services. And we're also building, as we have previously mentioned, that Sentech infrastructure has to move with the times. We also providing broadband services, wireless broadband services, because as you will know, internet connectivity is key. We saw the need for connectivity during the pandemic. So our role as Sentech, providing universal access to not only content but to broadband. So because of our technology, which is satellite and wireless, we can provide broadband wireless internet services to the most remote areas, because satellite knows no boundaries. So we can provide broadband internet to those areas which are far flung. And so this is like Sentech service offering, which we're not calling ourselves a signal distributor anymore, because technologies have grown. We have evolved as an entity from being a signal distributor to providing broadband services, to providing managed infrastructure services, and data centers. We spoke a little bit about our intention to build capacity for data centers, because we've got some capacity in our infrastructure which we own, And so we're working on those services to build capacity for our customers, especially the public sector customers. So this is Sentech. It is a national, we've got a national footprint, about 16 offices around the country. And our major customers, I think for now we're saying that it is mainly broadcasters. And we'll probably speak a little bit about how we see the future. Yeah.
Thank you, Mlamli. I just want to elaborate or expand on what you were saying around, the broadband services that you offer, and I want to make a note. But I attended an event where the president was speaking around how there needs to be greater connectivity in the country, because places like KZN, connectivity is so limited, particularly in rural parts of KZN. So I want to hear from you how, what Sentech's role is, like providing broadband services. How are you doing that to get it to the person in that rural area, in KZN, for example?
Yeah, sure. Now, our business in the broadband space is we're taking a twofold approach. One is the mandated service, which is government has appointed us to be one of the companies who roll out what we call SA Connect, which is broadband services as provided for by government. Government's intention is that all schools, all clinics, all public entities, all public buildings, and even communities, the traditional communities or traditional centers, chieftainships, and all those kind of areas must be connected to the internet. And we've designed our network to deliver the broadband services in using two technologies. One is a satellite technology, which is quick to deploy, not necessarily cheap compared to other technologies, but it's quick to deploy, and the infrastructure that you need as an end user is quite robust, and the only thing that interferes with it, if it is at a higher frequency like a KU band or KA band, which is a higher frequency, it would be if there is a thunderstorm for a short period of time, you might lose a bit of connectivity, but you don't have continuous thunderstorms in this country, so we really are okay providing broadband via satellite. The second provision of broadband is using our wireless terrestrial infrastructure, and that requires us to use point-to-point broadband technologies. And for us to be able to do that, we also need to partner or to source broadband fiber services as a backhaul, meaning that if in my site in Auckland Park I need to provide internet, I need to bring in the internet connectivity using fiber so that I can have broad enough capacity to be able to, in an unlimited way, provide internet connectivity. So as Sentech, then in those remote areas, when President or the Minister or the CDT says we will connect people to the internet, our role is to make sure that we participate, and we are currently rolling out SA Connect nationally. Government is funding the SA Connect services, and we also are looking at not only the funded customers, but we're looking at people who are prepared to pay for broadband services which we provide to them. So we're really doing this at two levels. Yeah.
Oh no, that's
schools in particular. We really are quite committed to ensuring that there is internet in schools. Government is committed because they have done even providing or giving the mandate to the licensed mobile operators that one of your obligations is to make sure that schools are connected to the internet. So we're all partnering in this space of providing broadband to not only to the cities but to the underserved areas equally.
And it seems that the approach that's being taken is more of a, working together as opposed to doing everything in silos, I suppose, because you don't particularly see the results maybe if you work alone, whereas if you worked as like a PPP, then you know that you'll achieve the objectives or the goals that you've set out.
Indeed, I think that there's a strategy of partnering as public sector entities, first of all, and also partnering with our private sector suppliers, because we don't deploy everything ourselves. We make use of the businesses out there who are capable of assisting us to deploy these networks. And we're also committed to bringing these services to be accessed by the SMMEs and ISPs that we would want to use as we deploy and roll out our broadband services, because we cannot grow businesses if we ignore the SMMEs. It is not an easy model, but we believe that the more opportunities we give, there will be learning, teething problems as we try to use SMEs to roll out our broadband services. But we are committed to ensuring that the partnership between ourselves as a company and the SMEs is actually working. And we have seen that we're testing it in other areas in the country. It seems to be taking off quite nicely.
And Mlamli, just to, I don't know, to throw it out to you, that would like, how do you think when do you think we'd actually achieve 100% broadband connectivity? Just, in an ideal world.
I'm an engineer, so we believe that you never achieve 100%.
Okay.
There'll always be 99.999%. So there'll always be room for improvement. That's what I'm trying to say.
Yeah.
Ideally, we want to cover 100% of the
Yes.
population. Will there ever be time for us to do so? I believe in the future, because what happens is that if you bring an internet hotspot within a village, take my village, Kutingo, in Zolo, in the Oratamo district. If you bring broadband fiber to that village, you don't have to bring into each and every household connectivity. You can have a Wi-Fi hotspot at a school and at a clinic. And people can have, in the surrounding areas, can have access to internet, although they may not have it in their own homes, but they can walk to the Wi-Fi hotspot and have access to internet. The ultimate goal is to have internet access in their own homes. And we believe that will happen as we, as government and private sector partner. There will be time when we can say, at least we should be able to say we can achieve 100% of the schools. There's no excuse for not doing that. We must be able to say we'll achieve 100% of the clinics and 100% of all the government buildings. That one, I can see it happening. If I was to project, it should happen in the next 5 years, I would say. But I'm sure our principals want it to happen sooner, and we're committed to make it happen sooner. And then the communities around those facilities, around that infrastructure, then you can begin to expand that network so that everybody has got access. They don't have to go to town to go and draw money. They must be able to do EFT and so on from their homes, individual homes. Yeah.
You spoke about how Sentech's evolution from just being a signal distributor to being a content distributor, and that's mainly based on the evolution of technology and having to adapt with the changes that we are seeing. So how would you say that you guys have done that? And if you can maybe share an example of where the entity itself has kind of adapted to the technological changes and moving within the new space or phase that we are finding ourselves in.
You will. Thank you for that question. It's a good question, because it takes me to a point which I would like to explain, which is that initially when we were set up Sentech, the technology that we had at the time was analog, meaning that on one frequency you would carry one channel of, let's say, a television channel on one frequency. The technology then evolved on the terrestrial environment, where that one frequency you can actually transmit more than 6 channels on one frequency terrestrially. So because you're digitizing, you're compressing the content, and you're securing it as you compress, as you digitize, to make sure that piracy is reduced. So in the digital environment, you have those opportunities to be able to have multiple channels on one frequency. This is what is happening as we speak about the digital terrestrial TV. You've had stories about the BDM, which is the migration from analog to digital. This is what we call broadcast digital migration. So that is something that we've done. Obviously, we're behind in that space if you look at what's happening in the world, but I think that's a story for another day. But what I want to come to is on the technologies. It is digital television that we are currently broadcasting. We have trial digital radio, but it is not in the market yet. And digital radio would have the same, will deliver the same kind of a service where on one frequency you can have multiple channels and be able to have a broadcaster carrying different services, or have many broadcasters being carried on that one multiplex, as we call it. And also now you have interesting developments, which is what we're calling it over-the-top services, which is the OTT services. Now, this, one might say, this is a challenge to the traditional broadcasting platform. We don't see it as a challenge. We see it as an opportunity for growth in that area. But it is not going to replace what you have. It is not going to replace your services that you deliver by satellite, which is one of the services we deliver. You can deliver multiple channels by satellite. But the latest technologies now, which is OTT, on which people can watch series like, or let me say platforms like Netflix or Showmax or any other platform that is available on the OTT technology. That technology, it makes it easier for you to do on-demand services. But as a broadcaster, I would never only use one service as a broadcaster. I would say I will not look at the technology, but I would look at multiple technologies and platforms so that I'm technology agnostic. I'm able to say I'm available on terrestrial TV, I'm available on satellite TV, and I'm available on streaming, which is your over-the-top, so that somebody currently, I mean, you don't, especially the younger folk, they don't watch linear TV, like you're sitting there waiting for 7 o'clock news. Nobody does that anymore, because come 7 o'clock, all the news are now stale because they have been coming through via the OTT platforms and Twitter and all those other services. So therefore, as a broadcaster, you have to be on all platforms. For us, the opportunity we're providing to broadcaster is that let us provide you with platforms that you can put your content on, so that you can either, if this content is encrypted, so that means for your pay service, or if it is free to air, that means you've got ability to provide services, and then advertising revenue comes through you selling advertising capacity on this free to air service. So this is how we've seen then the migration. And broadband, I think you cannot have OTT without broadband. Those two are really cousins, I would say. Yeah. One is a platform on which the other runs. Yeah.
So am I correct in saying that Sentech is the platform on which, because I know that the SABC, if I'm not mistaken, which was last year when they launched their own VOD platform, so is Sentech has provided the ground on which SABC is able to do this, or?
You're referring to the SABC Plus?
Yes, that one.
That is not a Sentech OTT platform, that one. I think it was done by another service provider. Although I must add that we as Sentech have done POC, proof of concept, and demonstrator for SABC. I think it was around 2019. They ran on this OTT platform for about a year, and everything worked. But I think the issue of where or which platform they choose is still a process which they are still undergoing now. And we're hoping that they will choose our OTT platform and be on it. Yeah. And it's not only them, by the way. When during COVID pandemic, we had also the some free-to-air religious or faith services, which were running on our OTT platform, which was carried on satellite, to provide access to their content by those people who have got satellite dishes, and provide streaming via satellite. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
And so, what's the reception been like towards the Sentech OTT platform? What would you say?
I think it's been good. I mean, it's still early days. It's been good because we have actually developed one for one of our sister entities who does a lot of work in the training and development space, and then we continue to develop that and improve, and we will continue to improve it for them as they continue to use it. So the uptake. Remember, broadcasting or content distribution, or let me say the business of broadcasting, is largely driven by the attractiveness of the content that you carry on the platform. It has nothing to do with platform, whether you're on satellite or terrestrial. If what you're providing is attractive, you're going to get audiences. Because we are not on the audiences side, we're not on the content side. We provide the road on which these vehicles ride on, and therefore we rely largely on our broadcasting customers to ensure that they've got good content running on our platform, and thus increasing for them the audience numbers, which result into the advertising revenue increasing and prosperity for the broadcaster.
So it's not necessarily targeted at me as a consumer, right?
No, it's targeted. It's really a B2B service. I would say business to business, and broadcasters are the one who must say this is our platform, and then Simnikiwe, please can you either subscribe or log on to this or download this app and consume the platform. So we're sitting behind. We are behind the scenes provider of a platform as Sentech.
Okay. It makes so much sense now, because when we've written about it, we were always assuming that the assumption is that it's for the consumer, but now that you've explained it, it's B2B, like getting to the sense of, oh no, it's for the broadcasters, and then they can, okay.
Indeed. I think there was a myth that Sentech is now competing with these customers. I mean, some people wrote about that. I thought, shame, they don't understand. Let's explain it. No, we provide a platform. The broadcasters will compete. We can have competing broadcasters on the same platform because we're providing them a white label product, which really on it you will not be seeing Sentech, but it's brought to you by Sentech, but we are not selling that brand to the consumer. The consumer will see the broadcaster with the broadcaster's name and log on to that service and consume it.
Okay. Oh, thank you. And just to maybe to carry on that, is it I suppose it is a way of how Sentech is evolving, providing such a platform for the broadcasters, where now your business model, is it changing, or is it maybe not changing, but like just an evolution of the business model that was initially of how the entity initially started?
It is an evolution in a sense, but maybe let me qualify that statement by saying that on the content side, we don't see ourselves being business to consumer because we don't have a license to do so. So you have to be licensed by ICASA to be able to broadcast. The license that we have is to be able to carry the licensees on our platform. That we do. The other licenses that we have are the one for providing broadband services. We can provide directly to you as an end user by coming to your house and installing a satellite terminal, and then you've got broadband at your own premises, at your own house. So that one, there's no prohibition in terms of the license that we hold. We can do business to consumer. However, we have decided that in this phase of our business evolution, we are going to focus on business to business. So we even classify the public sector, like your schools and clinics, we classify them under that umbrella of a business. So that when we get to the school, we do that B2B to that area. And then because we want to enable the SMEs, then we say from that point that we have brought to that business, create value for yourself by taking from that point of presence, and then you create your own hotspot, and then you can sell your broadband vouchers to those who want to consume broadband from that area. So we are still focusing largely on B2B. Yes, and we provide service to everybody on the business space.
Mlamli, I cover the business beat a lot. Well, not the government beat a lot, and I would say that from what I've seen is that Sentech is one of the state entities that's often, while some state entities have faced some tough financial troubles in the past or currently, it seems like Sentech you guys have managed to stay afloat, and how have you achieved this?
Yeah, I think it is multifold, but let me start. I'll mention three. The first one is thanks to our customers who have been with us for a number of years since inception, who, because of the service we provide, stayed with us. And that really provided us with capacity financially to be able to have resources to ensure that these customers stay on air all the time. And so that is one point. The other one is, if you look at some of the challenges faced from an ethics point of view, which is maybe one of the questions you're asking here, we at Sentech, we are motivating, encouraging people that we stick to our values. We've got 5 values, and we have created an acronym that is called I CARE. The first value is innovation. We have to innovate so that we're not left behind in the evolution of technologies. And the second one is customer centricity. If you don't focus on the customer, we don't have a business, right? And thirdly, we have to be agile so that we can be able to provide services to the customers on time. And agility also requires that we remain accountable. That's the second A. So the I CARE has got a double A. The second A is accountability. This is what my colleagues have to be to each other. Accountability to each other, accountability to the customers, all right? And as we remain accountable to each other, we must develop a reliable infrastructure. That's where the R comes in. Not only infrastructure, but as individual professionals, as leaders of the organization, as staff of the organization, we must be known to be reliable people. And lastly is operating ethically. And this is a big one for me. And I really take very personal attention to this one, because if we're not ethical in doing business, you're going to face major problems of being found in many commissions that get established. So for us, we said to ourselves, we want to remain below the radar, providing a good service to our customers. And what we say to our colleagues at Sentech, and I want to say it publicly, that as people who are committed to innovation, when you innovate, you can make mistakes, and that's allowed. Experiment, make mistakes, that's easy to forgive. But your innovation must not get close to the till of the company, meaning that don't steal, because if you do, then the law will take its course, and unfortunately, I cannot protect you if you break the law. I wouldn't, I can't, and I shouldn't. So why have we stayed afloat? Thanks to the customers, thanks to our staff at Sentech who committed, and thanks to our governing body, our board, who has enabled us to run our business, and with the support of our shareholder. So these are the things that have really helped us. We are a Schedule 3B entity. This is very important for people to know, that as Sentech, we are not allowed by law to go and ask for a bailout from government. So we're a commercial entity owned by the state, but we must raise our revenue from the public, or rather from the marketplace. So because of that, we are very careful on how we do our business, and would like to be in the public for good reasons of us providing a service to our citizens, and supporting our customers, and also supporting our shareholder. So that's really how we've managed to do this. And I have a very great team of leaders at Sentech, I must say, who've helped me to run the organization successfully, and I'm grateful to them for that.
Thanks so much for that, Mlamli. And you mentioned around services. I just want to hear, being service-driven and service provision. If you can just talk us through in terms of the data center services that that you looking to get into that space. If you can just chat more about that, or if you whatever you can tell us.
Sure. I think this is an interesting one, because the developments in technology are on the cloud. So meaning that whatever applications you run, whether it is a Microsoft Office or an ERP, which is an enterprise resource planning app, it is on the cloud. And what it means is that data centers must provide the capacity. So a cloud doesn't mean the cloud out there. It means that provide capacity on the ground, so that we can be able to store data and run our services and connect that to the internet for accessing services which are available globally. So the journey that we are on now, and which we will do in partnership with other entities, largely in the public sector space, is to build more capacity for data centers, which will then host the public service data. So why did we move into this space? Because we have capacity. We've got our infrastructure. Although in the bigger scheme of things, it's relatively small. We're wanting to expand it. It is available here in Johannesburg, in one of our transmission sites. So wanting to expand that, so that we can have a public cloud available on our data center. And we'll do this in partnership with both private sector and public sector, but we'll remain the custodians and the owners of that infrastructure, so that we can control what goes in and goes out of that infrastructure. But I think in due course we'll be able to give more details. But I think for now I hope that suffices to tell you what we're trying to do.
No, you do. We'll just wait to hear from you guys when you can share more.
Space.
Watch this space. And I know that we touched on, I just want to hear your thoughts. We touched on, over-the-top services, but I just want to hear from you. What do you think of, in the South African streaming market, what's happening with all the players that are are coming, and
Yeah.
uh, just your thoughts.
Yeah. I think the South African market is still maturing in as far as the OTT services and platforms are concerned. And this is largely due to the fact that OTT services are directly linked to availability and penetration of broadband. So anyone who says OTT is going to replace traditional broadband next year, I don't think they would have thought it through and considered the contributing factors. It's only at the time when you can say everyone has broadband, then you'll have a bigger pool of viewers and customers who can access that service. So we've got competing OTT platforms in the country on the content side, the Netflix, the Showmax, Amazon, and I'm sure there'll be others who will be coming through. And they're coming through because they see the potential in this market. Can you stop them? No, you shouldn't even think of stopping them. But I would say find a way of working together with them and partnering with them. If you're a broadcaster, if you want to compete with them, compete with them. But you may want to collaborate with them as a broadcaster and say, how do we together share in this provisioning of OTT platform to our consumers? And if you do that, I think the level of success is going to be much higher. We can't even think of using regulation and law to stop them, as some people want. They think that they can. The regulator must do its job where there is a gap, and I think they're doing their best under the current circumstances. But you're not going to stop OTTs from coming into the country.
You answered my question, because I was going to ask you about regulation, and then you, which is fine. Because some other people have, like you said, they think that regulation might be, a way to stop or not, maybe hinder some of the players that are coming into the country. But obviously, I'll just go into the next one, Mlamli, around. I remember you were participating in a roundtable, but it was virtual. It was an ICASA hosted virtual roundtable about the impact of load shedding on business and everything else. And I remember you mentioned some of the costs around diesel, how to keep your sites going when there is load shedding. So my question then is, we know that it's a financial implication on the entity, the diesel cost that is. So what are the plans around, from a Sentech point of view, what are you guys doing to try and, what are you doing around investments in renewables, or like trying to going green as an organization?
No, thanks for that. It's a good question in that we have a situation in our country where maybe let's start with the global problem. The global problem is that of climate change. And that global problem can be reduced or solved to a limited extent by us using a lot more of green energy. We were not going to replace coal-generated energy immediately, but we as Sentech decided that in our contribution to clean environment, we will we've got, as I said, we've got more than close to 300 sites nationally, and we started in our head office deploying a solar plant, which when the sun is shining, at least our energy consumption is reduced. And the next phase for us is now to do power backup, or rather energy storage, so that we can at least store that power that we are receiving from the sun. And we've done this on about 19 of our sites. We continue to do more sites. That's our target to date, to around 19 of these, especially the major sites. And our sites are also well located on the high sides, high mountains, which makes it possible to put a wind-generated power source on those transmitter sites. So, but for now, we're looking at solar, and we're looking at deploying solar on our transmitter sites, and it will not, because of the demand for high power on our transmitter sites, because these are high power transmitters. So we can't replace the energy requirement there by power from a solar. We're going to need a very big solar farm to be able to do that. So we still have that hybrid between our solar, which is small scale for now, and the energy that comes from Eskom. Because of load shedding, the point I'm coming to now is the point of cost. All right, load shedding has increased our cost of backup, and let me say our cost of operations, especially on the energy side, by more than 300%. And unfortunately, I mean, this is something that industry did not anticipate. So we're carrying that cost. It's a big load on us as Sentech. But because of our commitment to our customers, we had to agree that we're going to deploy generators in all the major transmitter sites, which cover big populations. And then we'll slowly deploy those generators and solar to other outlying sites. So, yes, load shedding is hitting us, but we have to continue providing the service, and we are not the only ones who are actually impacted by this, and our customers just continue to demand that they want their services up all the time, which we are providing, and we cannot not do that. So that's our commitment to them. Yeah. I hope that.
No, it did. No, it does. It does. Thanks, Mlamli. We've spoken about, how Sentech started, where Sentech is, and it's in the going into the future. But that obviously involves the fact that there's an intended merger of Sentech and Broadband Infraco to create what is the state digital infrastructure company.
Yes.
So I want to hear from you. What does the future of Sentech look like within that context?
Yeah. The government made this decision of consolidating its companies which are operating in similar environments. And it was seen to be logical from their point of view at the time that Broadband Infraco and Sentech operate in the broadband space and in the communications industry. Therefore, let's merge these two entities. And because these two entities are products of statute, so we are established in terms of the Sentech Act, and Broadband Infraco is established in terms of the BBI, Broadband Infraco Act. So you need law to make any changes on these two entities. But what government has done is to say to us, proceed with the interim measure, which we're calling acquisition. Bring a proposal to us as government. So government will announce whether or not there will be a change in how we're going to structure this measure. But for now, which we believe this is the way it's going to go. The future of Sentech in the merged entity will remain that of providing wireless broadband services. That's including all the content distribution services, satellite, terrestrial, and so on. and we have Broadband Infraco, who is a fiber provider. So there is a good fit, though, in terms of how everything being equal. If you need a backhaul, fiber backhaul to a point of presence POP, at that POP you then wirelessly distribute your content. This is the role that will continue to play as Sentech, will remain that of wireless, and Infraco and us will have that relationship to work together. Eventually, it will be a state digital infrastructure company, which there will be, I think it is envisaged that there will be no Sentech, no broadband. It will be a new brand, which we don't know what it would look like. So that's really how we see ourselves. There is room for existing services continuing, but how we structure ourselves will be governed by how the shareholder has decided on in terms of the law, how the SDIC is going to be structured in terms of the law. I can't say much on that because that's the department's role to pronounce on those issues.
Do you think it's a good idea for them to be doing that, like to come and merge these two companies to create another state company? Was that?
I think it makes logical sense because, as I said, there is a good fit between these two entities. Yes. And also, I think it will focus it, because then what government was aiming to do was not only look at broadband infracore infrastructure, but it was to look at, if you look at the 4IR report, which was submitted to the president a couple of years ago. One of the recommendations was that let's look at all the broadband infrastructure that is owned by the state, and let's consolidate this into this one state digital infrastructure company. So I think the rationale for pulling all these entities together, in my view, it is sound. But I think where we probably are having to be efficient is the speed of execution in doing these measures and acquisitions. But in terms of the rationale, I see it as a good thing.
And having said that, Mlamli, just from would you say are some of the gaps in the public ICT sector space? What do you think is missing, and what needs to be addressed immediately, like maybe in the short term? What would you say?
Well, access. I think that's really one thing that I would say. If you look at the ICT environment, everyone must have access to ICTs, meaning that the fact that I live in my village should not discriminate me. The children who grow up in those villages should not be discriminated by technology, because when they finish that matric, they go to university and compete with kids who are miles ahead of them in terms of knowledge of technology. And then that is why you will find that very few of those learners who graduate from the high schools in the rural areas compete fairly with those who are in the good schools in the urban areas. There will be a few, of course, in those areas who are, because of the leadership in those schools, who do even better than those in the urban areas. But there are very few. So where are the gaps? I think it's really on the broadband side. And also on the skills side, we need to train young and old to be very conversant with technology. And those who are already in the technology space with experience, those should be mentoring the younger ones so that we're able to pass on the knowledge to the younger engineers and scientists and social scientists. Because I think one of the challenges that we face as a technology environment is thinking that everybody who works in the ICT space must be an engineer or a technician. You need social scientists in this space so that they can be able to model and tell you as a technologist what the users are needing. So we need a multiple skilled workforce so that we can be able to meet the needs of all our customers. Also investment, I think this is really where I believe we should be investing more. I'll give you the example of this load shedding. It's a problem for everybody, but mobile operators, obviously, in the urban areas, they put backup power, solar and batteries, and then there's a new crime now of people stealing the batteries.
Yeah.
But what we're finding is that if you go to a village, is that there is no backup power. When there's load shedding, your network doesn't work, basically. So I think a good level of investment is needed in the infrastructure, backing up power, and also expanding the reach of these networks to all areas in our country.
No, thank you, Mlamli. I think we've covered most of the, well, not most, all of the all of the questions.
Sure.
I don't know if you have any, concluding remarks that you'd like to share with, our viewers and from ways about Sentech and just the future.
Yeah. No, thank you for the opportunity, Simnikiwe. I think there's two things which are very important for us as a company, is to ensure that we are relevant at all times, and following our value of innovation, we have to continue to be innovative. And this term is used very loosely, but in our environment, we're saying, let's find the problem and the pain points first of all, for our customers. And let's use technologies, whether it's 5G or 6G that is coming. Let's use these technologies to innovate and provide better services for our customers. And I think that what is important for us as Sentech to succeed into the future is partnerships between entities, both public and private sector, and also making sure that our staff is properly trained. Let us invest more on training. If we do, then we'll have a lot more people who are knowledgeable about technology. And the challenge that I would really place on the table of the industry is that we need to build venture capital capacity as an ICT sector, because we've got a number of young people who have got great ideas, but the venture capital environment in South Africa is so behind. And therefore, as an industry, let us put aside some budgets to create innovation and venture capital funded projects so that we can be able to build solutions for Africa by South Africans and by Africans. And in that way, we'll be able to grow this industry. And Sentech is in the mix. We're very committed to innovation. We established 3 years ago, a research and innovation center at Sentech, and we're doing collaboration with about 6 universities where we provide scholarships for university students, and also a research fund. So small as we are, but we're making some contribution. So let us all contribute as an industry.
Thank you so much, Mlamli.
Thank you, Simnikiwe.
That was Mlamli Booi. He is the CEO of Sentech. Thank you for joining us. Thank you so much, Mlamli.
Welcome.